Hello, students. I wanted to create a video that explains how to create a chapter outline because this is a very important skill that you need to be able to carry with you throughout your academic career. Outlining is really helpful because it helps you organize ideas instead of just reading a chapter of a textbook or of a story. It's much more productive to organize your thoughts. An annotated outline embeds comments and questions and reflections to make the learning experience even more impactful. So, your first chapter outline can be found on Canvas Unit 1, Chapter 1, Worldviews over Coffee at Starbucks. So, if you click on that, you will be directed to a page with a brief description of what to complete. You're actually going to click here, all right, which will bring you to the instruction page. If you see, first off, your outline should be 2 or 3 pages long. If it's shorter or longer, if it's shorter, then you're probably not putting enough information. If it's longer, then you're probably not being concise enough. So as you can see, I put an example from the other chapter on Keller, from Every Good Endeavor, and you can see the example outline of that. I didn't ask you to create an outline. I asked you just to do 3 insights and 3 questions, but this is what the outline would have looked like if I asked you to do it. You can see it's about just over 2 pages long. So let's look at the directions. The first thing you need to do is read the chapter. Then, as you're reading, I recommend that you highlight or underline, try to identify the key ideas. If you get lost in the details, then it's very likely that you won't have a good grasp of what was actually said in the chapters, all right? Then, once you are able to complete the chapter and identify key details, you can start the outline. Then the outline, obviously you want to start with the main ideas. This can oftentimes be found in section titles, or as you read, you'll be able to decipher, okay, we're entering a new main idea or not. Then you can go through and add the supporting information. It's important to include citations. And then in the example you're about to see, you'll see the questions and the comments are in different colors. And then at the end, there's actually a personal reflection component where you go deeper, not just summarize, but you analyze, reflect, make connections, evaluate, and look ahead. Alrighty? So this is an example of what an outline would look like for Every Good Endeavor from your 1.2 reading. So you can see, here's the actual reading. When you look at it, you can see there's only 2 kind of headers: making sense of the world and stories and worldviews. Now, I already went through and kind of bolded things as I was reading that I thought would be important, kind of main ideas that I should include on my outline, okay? So when you go over here to the outline example, you can see that I identified some of the main ideas in this first section, making sense of the world. Humans often interpret events and experiences through the lens of narratives. This example of the duck, is the man mentally ill? Does he mistake you for someone else, or is he a foreign spy? All of these in black are simply short summaries of different parts that were main ideas, okay? When we get to the different colors, the blue is the comments. That's where you are able to provide your own insight. And then the red are different questions that you have. So if we go back to the directions page, you can see here, the questions. This is where you transform from a passive reader into an active one. These can be clarifying, where you think about something you didn't understand, or probing questions where you challenge the author's ideas. Alternatively, questions can be used to make connections between different sections in different subjects that you're studying. The comments are to analyze and critique, where you can identify trends, patterns, or argument structures. Evaluate the strengths of the evidence in the material that you're reading, relating it to prior knowledge, okay? So if we look at the example, this is just from the first section. So if you go back to the actual reading, this is simply an outline of just these 3 paragraphs, 1, 2, 3, okay? So the comment that I made is the correlation between personal narratives and perceptions of world events is compellingly presented. The impact of these narratives on major life decisions like career choices offers a profound exploration of the real-world implication of our internalized stories. However, through discussion, this could be included on how these narratives are formed and influenced over time. A question that I have are, what are the main factors influencing the narratives we construct around world events? How can an individual challenge or reevaluate their own narrative to ensure a more accurate perception of reality? Now you'll see the comment isn't a summary. This isn't directly taken from the text. However, these parts up here, about the duck, or about the September 11th attacks, or even this part about navigating our lives, kind of the thesis of the whole book in our careers, is a direct summary, okay? So it's important in your outline that you identify the main ideas and summarize them, but then also the comments, and please indicate that it's your comment, because if I'm reading your outline, I want to know, is this a summary or is this your own idea? I did that by indicating this is a comment and I put it in a different color. You are welcome to do that if that helps you, or you can come up with your own way of doing that. Then I put a question in a different color. And you can see that I didn't just ask a simple question. I took what the author was saying, put it in my own life, mixed it with what we're learning in class, and tried to come up with a useful and productive question. Then you can see the next part is stories and worldviews. This part is a bit longer, but in my outline, I actually, I was able to concisely put it into 3 bullet points. And I recommend that you do something similar, okay? Influence of the worldview and human nature, 2 bullet points. Worldview and daily work, 2 bullet points. And then that's the end of that. But you can see on each section, I have comments and I have questions. And it's important that you don't just have 2 comments or 2 questions for the whole chapter, but you weave them throughout the chapter as you read. Now, you'll see that you would think right off the bat, if you go back to that text, that there's only one subheader here, making sense of the world, and stories and worldviews. However, as you read, you're going to see that there's probably more than just those 2 ways to break down the text. And that's where you can decide, okay, I'm going to make this a section of my outline, or I'm going to make this another section of my outline. And that's completely up to you. Unlike the outlines that you're learning in research writing, they're very structured. The outline that you create for a chapter outline is going to really reflect the structure that the author has chosen to structure the chapter. So a chapter outline you write this week might look very different than the one you write next week. And that's just kind of based on the way the ideas are presented, but also based on the way that you understand the ideas. So this is a very flexible outline, okay? The way that you create the kind of the subheaders and break down the points and the way you embed your comments and questions are very dynamic and flexible, and I want you to feel free in doing that. So don't feel pressure to make your outline look exactly like mine. The important part is that you summarize, but you don't over-summarize and you don't under-summarize, but more importantly, I want to know what you're thinking. So that's where you put the comments and the questions, okay? Then the last part of our directions, you'll see write a concluding reflection. This is where you can reiterate points, but more importantly, I want you to analyze and reflect. Consider the chapter's content as a whole. How do the different parts fit together? What themes and patterns do you see? Reflect on what you've learned. Did anything surprise you? Did anything seem most important? you can make connections on things that you studied earlier. This can help. This can help you even make sense of things, in philosophy and experiencing Jesus and worldviews, climate economy, African literature, all these different classes that we're studying together. There's certainly ideas and themes that are woven throughout. You also have the chance to evaluate, where you can judge. Was it argued well? Was it convincing? Was there any holes or gaps or biases that you felt existed? And then also look ahead. Consider what might be coming next, and also what are you curious about learning more. You can see in the outline example, I just wrote a very brief paragraph. It just has 6 or 7 sentences. I don't expect this to be a whole page long. Just half a page, like what I have here, will suffice. The important part is that you're being intentional, that you are going deeper beyond the surface, and that you're challenging your own perspectives. As this is a worldview class, I would hope that you are always challenging your own perspective, trying to learn from others, and thinking about the world in a completely different way than before. So I hope the outline makes a bit more sense now. Some questions you might have is, how many questions do I have to include? How many comments do I have to include? I don't like having to give you a number on that. However, if you have less than 3 or 4 comments or less than 3 or 4 questions, then it's probably too little, okay? And feel free, to make this your own. I want you guys to be creative, experiment with different formats, different fonts, different colors. This will help you get ownership and responsibility in the assignment, which I think will help you remember some of this stuff better as well. Keep in mind, you're not creating this outline to cram for a test like you're used to in schools. This is simply meant to be a tool to help you learn and engage with the content more meaningfully to impact your learning. So I hope this helped make sense. This helped you make more sense of the outline assignment. If you look up to the Hidden Worldviews Over Coffee, you can see that this is a bit longer, and there's a few subheaders. So real life, whole life worldviews. We have worldviews as a story as our second section. We have our story and worldview formation as a third. We have this model. We have story moving towards action. So we have 4 or 5 kind of different sections that you can unpack. So those 4 or 5 subtitles might correspond to the subtitles you choose in your outline as a way to break it down. That's the great thing about nonfiction text, is there's oftentimes subheaders that help kind of break down the text for us, different sections, bolds, and whatnot, to guide us. As far as the reflection questions, these are not needed to be answered in your outline. These are simply just to help you think. So do not feel like you need to answer these in your reflection paragraph or even in your outline. Okay? All right. Happy learning. Bye.